stepping across the grass to see my girl.
George, you put on your overshoes. It's raining turbans. You don't go out of your house without prepared for it.
Oh, Ma, it's just a step.
George will catch the death of cold and cough all throughout the service.
George, do as your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers. But while you're in my house, you live wisely. Thank you. Maybe Mrs. Webb isn't used to calling her 7 in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee before you leave.
I'll be back in a minute. Morning, Mother Webb.
Oh, goodness, George, you frightened me. Now, you can come in a minute out of the wet, but you know I can't ask you in.
Well, why not?
You know as well as I do, the groom isn't allowed to see his bride on the wedding day.
Why?
Until he sees her in church first.
Well, that's just a superstition. Morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that superstition, do you?
Well, there's a lot of common sense in some superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, and you don't want to be the first to fly in the face of custom.
Well, how is Emma?
Well, she hasn't waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound out of her all morning.
Wait, Emily's asleep?
No wonder. We were sitting up till all hours, sewing and packing. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. You sit down for Mr. Webb and drink this cup of coffee, and I'll go downstairs and see if she doesn't come and surprise you. There's some baking too. Don't be long about it.
Well, George, how are you?
Fine. I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, on the morning of her wedding, a girl's head is apt to be filled with clothes of one thing or another. Now, don't you think that's probably it?
Yes. Yeah, I never thought of that.
A girl's apt to be a mite nervous on her wedding day.
Well, I just wish a fellow could get married without all this marching up and down.
Every man who's ever lived has felt that way about it, George, but it hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who built up the weddings, my boy. For a while now, they've had it all their own. A man sure looks small at a wedding, George. All those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
Well, but you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes! Don't misunderstand me, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing. Don't you forget that, George.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Well, you see, I had been to college and taken a little time to get settled. But Mrs. Webb wasn't that much older than what Emily is. Oh, age hasn't much to do with it anyways, compared to other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
Oh, I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was thinking the other night of the advice that my father gave me when I got married. Charles, he said. Charles, right off the bat, you need to let her know who's boss. Just give an order, even if it don't make any sense. That way she'll just learn to obey. And if there's anything that ever irritates you about your wife, your conversation or anything, well then you just get up and leave the house. And that'll make it clear. Oh yes, Charles, he said, never let your wife know how much money you have.
Well, Mr. Webb, I don't think
So,
I would.
I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been a happy man ever since. And let that be a lesson to you, George, to never ask advice on personal matters. Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Well, I thought.
You see, some fella brought this book into the office the other day. It's on the philo system of raising chickens. So I figured I would start off in the basement with an
Tom, are you
incubator.
talking about that incubator again? I thought you two would be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you'd like to Myrtle. I guess you haven't heard of that older superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the caveman,